Where is the first place you ever took a flight? Your first time travel stories shared live, now on the Brew.
So Joel, where's the first place you ever went to on an airplane?
So, the only reason I know this is because my family is all from New York, but it's New York and Vegas between the two cities. I don't know which way is which because my parents took me a lot when I was younger, but it's between those two. And then they also took me to Florida, unfortunately, and I'm really glad that I hardly remember any of that. But yeah, what about you, Joe?
Well, my first trip in high school, I got to go in a C-130 over top of downtown Pittsburgh, which was kind of cool. And they actually opened the door and everything, like above the skyscrapers, and it was kind of freaky. It was kind of fun. I was in ROTC, and I was actually shooting some B-roll for the news when I anchored in high school. So that was the first trip. But an actual, like, full-blown official flight, well, it was there to Vegas. Gotta admit, it was a great trip too. And I look forward to making another trip to Vegas this year too. I got to figure out when I'm coming back out there. But yeah, but the plane I was on the first time was United Airlines, but the plane was an old TWA plane that they clearly painted the outside, because when you got inside on the thing, they still had the TWA carpet on the wall and everything. And it wasn't even that long. It was around 9/11, so I was like, oh, I hope this thing doesn't fall out of the sky, but it didn't. TWA. Did you ever fly TWA, one of those old airlines?
I don't even know. If I did, I was a child. Not as an adult. I've never picked that airline. I've never even heard of it, really.
Yeah, it's old school. And I wish, though, one thing I would do, this is a horrible point, like flying back and forth to Vegas, I come out there every year, I would pay a little bit more money if they made adult-only flights between here and Vegas. Because sometimes when you've been out all night in Vegas and drinking, you got the head pounding, the last thing you need is somebody screaming child going on for 4 hours. Yeah, like, okay, if I'm coming from Disney or Orlando, I'd be like, okay, I expect that. But when you're coming back from Vegas, no, especially not on the 6 a.m. flight in the morning. I don't know, is that wrong to say? Probably.
Worst hangover because of that the whole time.
All right, back to the story at hand, though. So where's your first flight? Where's the first place you ever traveled? Let's take your answers and find out. Rock Guitar says he went to Oahu, Hawaii, 1971, age 15. Snuck off with 2 older girls I knew. Very little money in my pocket. Crashed on beaches over some nights. Couches, etc. An adventure for sure. My parents never knew until I called them collect. True story. Holy hell. In my family, you could never call collect. Like, they would lose their mind if you tried to call collect. I don't know why they were freaking out about paying that 15-cent charge for the call, but no, like my mom, my grandma, no, they'd lose their mind. You try calling collect.
That's cool. I like your idea of Hawaii. That's a good place to go. Anywhere with a beach you can crash overnight. That's a good idea. It's a good first flight.
That is pretty good. I'm sure a collect call from Hawaii even back in 1971 was probably more than 15 cents. And I wonder if his parents accepted the charges. Did you ever make a collect call?
No.
I can't even remember the last time I have. Those days are gone. You don't need to make collect calls anymore. But more answers. Elizabeth says she went to Cincinnati from San Diego. Richard Poole, too. First flying experience was for work. I flew to New Orleans. The place I worked for had a driver taken to the hospital down there. Another driver on the same trip with him picked me up at the airport. They were delivering frac tanks. And I had to look that up because I thought he was like, oh, cool, he's delivering like a load of tanks, like military tanks. That'd be kind of cool. But no, they're actually water tanks. So he's down there delivering water tanks.
Hey, you know what? That actually doesn't sound like that bad of a job, though, if you get to go back and forth,
New Orleans is a fun city. I've flown down there and hung out there before. It's hot as hell in the summer, but it's a good time.
Yeah, that's like the good and the bad of it is like you're only there for a quick weekend or whatever. Come in, do your job, leave, or however long it is, you're not there permanently. You can just enjoy a little bit of the city. That's, like Joe just said, it's probably really fun. I've never been there.
Rudy, he says, took my first flight on September 18th, 2018 to New York because it was a vacation, and the next night I got to see the Yankees put a whooping on the Red Sox. 10-1. Draft 2 Dynasty, I was 5 or 6 and we left the Philippines. Obviously you won't remember all the connections, but flew to New York to visit my grandma. Then maybe a week later, flew out to Guam. Real Treats tweets LaGuardia to San Antonio on Braniff Airlines, either 1977 or 78. I don't remember Braniff. And finally, NJ Leakster, solo trip to Paris, France in the 1980s. Some of those flights, like the Braniff Airlines, and talking about like flights in the 80s, like flying back then was luxurious. Now between like all the security checkpoints and checking your bag and the stress, the fees, it's kind of not so luxurious anymore. It's just flat out stressful.
Yeah, that Paris answer is a really good one. That would be an amazing first one. Imagine like trying to top that, or imagine like that being set as like your first flying experience. You wake up and you're in this amazing wonderland, and then now you're like me and Joe. We're gonna go watch baseball in like Detroit, You'll never live up to that Paris one in your mind.
No, not at all. Do you remember though when flights would actually serve meals, even to people in coach? That was the big thing when Continental Airlines existed, and United bought them and took that away. But I didn't mind getting my little Jimmy Dean sausage before I'd land out there in Vegas. It was hot, it wasn't great, but at least it was something to snack on.
That was something that I barely remember. Like, it's been gone for longer than it was around, like, in my lifetime. But yeah, it's gotten less and less convenient for sure.
Yeah, or it's something else they want to charge more fees for. Like international flights, you still get food, but domestic, as long as you were going like over 2.5 hours, if you weren't in first class, you would still get something hot. It just adds to like the stress of like flying is not as much fun as it used to be. It's really not. And now they've consolidated so much. When something goes wrong, like your plane breaks down or whatever, it becomes a nightmare just trying to get back home.
Right. Yeah.
All right, so thank you for all your great answers. That's some fun flying trips there. And hey, you want some more fun flying trips or more fun anyhow? Click on the subscribe button down below for all the fun here on the Jersey Joe 50 YouTube channel. Lots more travel, shows, talk, and fun waiting for you each and every week. All right, well, Joel, you and I have a flight coming up here in a few weeks as well. So the traveling, now that the world's opening back up, it's great to actually say we can do that again.
Yeah, I'm out to Newark, and then Joe and I are going to go out to Minneapolis, and then I'm coming back to Vegas. Little triangle.
You know, you just said New York. A lot of our answers on this show were New York, and I guess that makes sense. If you're flying internationally between the U.S. or wherever, you got to connect here. It is the biggest city in the U.S., so pretty much wherever you're going, you somehow end up like connecting through New York.
Yeah, most people, yeah, especially coming over from Europe.
It's a big old hub. All right, well, that's why it costs so much to get a cab to and from the airport. No, I'm kidding. All right, Jersey Joe, I know you saying thanks for watching. Thanks for all your great answers, and we'll see you next time, I hope.
Subscribe now so you don't miss a moment of the fun on the Jersey Joe 50 YouTube channel.